love about live radio, ladies and gentlemen. We were having a running joke about my sudden and irrational hatred for Phil Anderson, who is now on the phone, U.S. Senate candidate Phil Anderson. Phil, welcome to the Lion's Den. I am clearly going to chew you a new one because I hate you so much. Oh, no. Phil, are you there?
Yes.
Okay, good. I thought we had a bad cell connection. Yes. Nope. Well, I was saying, could you hear me? I am clearly going to chew you a new one because I just realized you were running for Senate a couple of minutes ago, and now I suddenly and inexplicably hate you.
Well, that's a shame, Dan. There's way too much hate in politics in the first place.
You know I'm kidding, my friend. You are running for the U.S. Senate. Yeah. You have run a number of times in the past as a Libertarian, though.
Yeah, well, I'm still running as a Libertarian, but just not using that as party affiliation. You know, in Wisconsin, you have the choice of choosing on the ballot party affiliation or statement of principle. And because the national LP is kind of a mess right now, I choose to represent the idea of disrupting the corruption rather than that party, which doesn't necessarily have a great...
I can get that. We haven't really gotten into over the air some of the issues with the National Libertarian Party. And I always say I am a conservative, but with deeply libertarian leanings. For example, COVID-19, I thought was the greatest affront to civil liberties, possibly in our country's history. When my children could, when my grandparents could be, or my in-laws could be thrown in jail for having my three little kids go through the park to go to Grammy and Grampy's house after virtual school. I mean, that is when I'm like, you know what, I'm getting the "Don't Tread on Me" tattoo on my backside after that happened. But
agreed, and not only that incident, but the precedent that sets up for the future, the information they gather about us, the compliance that builds among the public, unfortunately, of being willing to do it again, even despite the fact that a lot of the so-called science that generated that and the government authority has all been debunked.
So, Phil, I got to ask, and I guess this has always been my question for third-party candidates that come from the right. Like the left, okay, obviously you're a smart guy, you're with it, you understand the issues, you're well-spoken. You know, Jill Stein is Jill Stein. Marianne Williamson is, you know, the crazy wine aunt crystal lady, right? I guess my question is, like, why don't you feel there's a home for you in the Republican Party? Like, why do you feel? Because you got to understand that you being in the race is more likely to take votes away from Hovde, right?
Well, if you're a big pollster and love data, if you dig back into the 2016 data, that accusation was made too. As a matter of fact, by Ron Johnson in person to me at the Racine County Fair. He said I was taking more votes from him and suggested that I drop out. But every time Marquette did the polls, and I know you've got some reservations about their data gathering, but when they offered myself, Russ Feingold, and Ron Johnson, and then withdrew me and offered just Russ Feingold and Ron Johnson, I was drawing equally from each of them, plus people that wouldn't have normally voted. So
that's fair.
There are some issues on the left that I represent too, and make no mistake, I mean, there's a lot of pushback on the fact that I'm attacking Hovde only, and that's not true. Tammy Baldwin's got some problems too as far as libertarians are concerned with peace issues, transparency issues, wouldn't mention Julian Assange's name, et cetera. So it's not really coming from the right. It's coming from a libertarian point of view, which is neither right nor left.
I guess, do you think, though, my ultimate question would be, do you think you could do more good in trying to get, like, understanding that the libertarian movement, and which I do support in as much as I think it probably more closely aligns with my philosophy. I was very hawkish. You know, I came of age after 9/11 and understood we needed to take out a terrorist enemy, which is now targeting Taylor Swift. You want to get the war on terror back on. She had to cancel concerts because of a terror threat. You get the Swifties will sign up like it's, you know, the after Pearl Harbor if you take on the Queen. But my philosophy has always sort of more closely aligned with getting government back, returning power to the states and the people, getting back to the Constitution as written. Do you think you might...
You're a libertarian then. You're a libertarian.
No, but maybe I'm a pragmatic libertarian because I understand that we exist within the two-party system. You know what I'm saying? And, like, my question is, do you feel like you would do No. Hold on. Do you feel like you would do more good in getting the Republican Party in a more libertarian direction?
Well, let's look at the people that have tried to do that already. You could argue to a certain extent that Ron Paul or Rand Paul have been successful because, well, Rand Paul's still in office. But Justin Amash, a great Tea Party congressman from 2010 through 2020, just ran for U.S. Senate as a Republican and had been a Republican for most of that time in the Tea Party, and just only got 11% despite running a pretty well funded and he's a well known guy.
Didn't he was blasting Trump though?
Primary.
He was really, I mean, he was going at it very publicly against Trump, which I think soured a lot of people.
A litmus test for people that are conservative or libertarian.
No.
I mean, it's a political reality. I understand that, but it's an unfortunate one.
Sure.
And for me, I think one of the reasons I'm a serial candidate, I know you use that term and I'll own it, is because there's views that aren't being represented every election cycle. The idea that we need to have peace, that we need to not have the lobbyists write all the bills, not have the party leadership control the votes of the representatives in Congress, all of these things, none of that gets rectified by sending Eric Hovde to Congress, sending Tammy Baldwin to Congress. None of that changes. It's still a system that is held captive by the donor class, by big business, big industries who give money to both sides, who give both give money to the RNC and the DNC and various candidates, pick and choose the winners and losers, pick and choose who gets primaried, et cetera. And that's the essential problem, is that we're never going to have a free country again in terms of having a representative government that works until we solve that problem. And aside from a few people on either side, nobody's willing to take that on because they know they won't be successful in the two-party system.
All right.
So even in the wilderness, even in a loss, and I understand what my odds are every time.
Yeah.
That view needs to be, in public, on wonderful radio shows like yours, wherever it can be, because people need to feel like there are people out there fighting for them and fighting for their government and what they think. To me, MAGA is a great sentiment if you disassociate it with Donald Trump, because America used to be a place where representative government worked, where people felt like they had accountability with the people representing them in Congress, and they certainly, even if they believe it anymore, it's far, far, far from true.
Phil, this doesn't happen very often because I am a closed-minded, bigoted radio host. You have changed my mind. I know there are Democrats and liberals who are listening to me right now. You have my permission. In fact, I am endorsing Phil Anderson for all liberals who think Tammy Baldwin is a terrible candidate. This is your guy. He believes what you believe. Give him some red meat, Phil. What about like abortion or something like that?
Well, I think I'm pro-life personally, and
no, don't say that, Phil. Phil, don't say that. You're trying to get all of the libs listening to me to take votes away from Tammy Baldwin.
I understand that, Dan. You should have picked.
I am teasing you, Phil. I'll tell you what. I can't help. Phil, I am really sorry. We are up against a hard break that I do have to get out. I can't tell you. What's your website that people can get more information, sir?
AndersonForUSSenate.com.
And that's ANDERSON for Senate.com. Phil, I can't tell you. Oh, the number 4 Senate.
No, not a number.
Oh, no, FOR Senate. Okay, I'm sorry. I cannot tell you how much I enjoyed you calling in, Phil. This was a whole lot of fun, and I do wish you the best of luck in. I want you to run your campaign in Madison, in Milwaukee, Racine, Kenosha, Green Bay, and you take that message to every Planned Parenthood. Where else do those people congregate? And parks. You know what, Phil? You go to Bradford Beach for their pizza to the polls, and you talk to them about being a libertarian, because I think we can do some good together, sir. Thank you. This is what you get here on the Dan O'Donnell Show. I had a whole lot of other stuff planned, but I love people like that. Phil obviously knew I was kidding, and we had a great conversation off the air. I was like, hey, I heard you were talking about me. I'm like, yes. I suddenly realized how much I hate you. He starts cracking up. Dan O'Donnell Show, more